Hello. Today I wanted to talk about and go over some Fargate stuff. I've done Lambda in my past videos, the CI/CD pipeline and stuff, and lately I've been getting into Fargate, and I wanted to make a video um, similar to what I did with CI/CD pipeline, except about Fargate this time. Um, so first things first, I guess I should probably log into console. I also, I'll note, forget my password and stuff. Um, I will say I do have, I also forgot what, there it is. Forgot what app I was using for my MFA. I should have a Docker container already. Um, I have this Docker file, which all it does is import a simple Express app that logs the console and sends back hello world. I'll go ahead and spin that up. There we go. I'll build it, and then I'll run it. Yep. There we go, and if I curl localhost 8080, I get back hello world. So it is working. Just to show that it is working. Oh, that's right. I had to Docker kill this. For whatever reason, it wouldn't accept my kill. So this does work. I know that I have a working container. I'll go through setting up an ECS cluster, setting up security groups, IAM roles, and then launching a service on Fargate, launching this on Fargate. And I'll see if I can, I haven't ever done this just normally and not with other DNS and stuff, but I imagine it won't be too difficult to get it all set up with a load balancer and watch it go through the entire flow. So I am going to, in this ECS cluster, this is going to kind of be like a baseline template for me. So I'll have a cluster in there. I'll have IAM roles, security groups as need be, and an ALB, a load balancer, an application load balancer. The reason I'm putting it all in here, I'll export it all. And the reason I called it a baseline is because these will be, the idea behind it would be that you can put all those resources into the ECS cluster template, spin up the ECS cluster template. Those resources will not change very much at all. And then as you need or would like, you can add in new Fargate services. I think that's probably the better way to architect CloudFormation templates for this kind of application architecture. That's what they do in the AWS examples, and what I've experienced works best. And as I did in my last, my previous videos, I will go through all of this through scratch. I haven't done this before. Or at least I'll be going through it with everyone as if it was new to me. So I think that's a fun way to do it. Kind of go through all the debugging and everything. Don't think that is necessary. I don't think I'll have any parameters. If I do, I'll add them in as they come. Capacity providers, I don't think I have to worry about that. Cluster name, you can do this if you want, or you can just let CloudFormation generate one for you. Lately at least, My preference has just been to let CloudFormation generate names so that you can have cattle and not pets. If you haven't heard of that before, let me see. Wonder if that's, there we go. Yeah, you want cattle, not pets. The reason behind that is you don't want anything that's named anything particular and rely on those specific names. You want everything to be dynamic, and you want all the naming to be dynamic as well. So this is the way that CloudFormation does it is a good way to set all that up. Cluster settings, default capacity providers. I don't think we need any of this, so let's check out cluster settings. Doesn't look like you need anything. So that might be it. I guess there are no properties to it. Let's go ahead and spin that up just to. They keep changing up the console on me. Go ahead and create a stack, upload it. This one, Fargate, ECS cluster. No issue so far. I need to make one of these videos for creating a VPC too. I think that would be a good one. I imagine a lot of people would like to learn how to make one of those. I've never actually had to make one. I've always had them pre-made in the accounts that I go into. Interestingly enough, we'll need container registry and then container service. Container registry is like Docker Hub for Amazon. Also need CloudFormation. I forget where that is. There we go. That looks right. So there's my cluster. Let's go into CloudFormation. We'll be able to see it. There's nothing running in here, but it is all ready to go whenever I'm ready to go. So ECS cluster is good. Like I said, well, let's set up some exports. I don't think I have any exports in here, do I? Oh, nope. This will be the first time I write exports in one of these. They're not too difficult. I think actually that I have. There we go. Yeah, I have some CloudFormation snippets on my blog about this. Yeah, I'll stick with this kind of naming. I guess the one thing I would point out, normally depending on how all of this is, make sure this is recording. Okay, depending on how all this is set up and different environments that you might use, you could argue that doing something like this is kind of getting yourself into the cattle versus pets naming problem, which is fair. I would suggest naming this something like, well, I might as well go ahead and do it. AWS stack name, ECS cluster, and then you can either encode the dev pre-prod prod environment into the stack name, or you can also add in a reference to a parameter that specifies environment. That's one way to go about doing it. One way to go about naming correctly. Go ahead and update this just so we have that export, because I know that my once I start getting into Fargate stuff, I will need that. So there we go, ECS cluster. So now this name is unique, and I can just always reference it by that. That's kind of funny. I didn't think about that. Next, we'll get into Fargate stuff. So the whole goal, and let me go ahead and upload to ECR right now. The whole goal of this is to deploy the Docker image that I currently have locally on my computer. So in order to export or spin that up, sorry, in ECS, I will need to have my image available either on Docker Hub or AWS ECR. So I'll just go ahead and make an ECR repository. I don't need image scanning. Let's see which ones are required. Image scan, so it will scan for like known vulnerabilities. It's probably a good thing to keep on or to turn on, but I'm not going to for now. Default setting is mutable. I'll leave it there. Yeah, I would suggest if you're doing this for professional purposes or for enterprise purposes, I would definitely suggest going through these these properties and making sure that they are set to your company's standards. But I don't really have to do that. My repository name, I'll just let it generate. I don't need anything else. So yeah, I think this is another really easy CloudFormation resource, which is pretty nice. Once I update this, once we get this working, I will go ahead and go through the upload process for ECR because it's not the simplest thing. There's some finagling you have to do with tags and whatnot, and getting the actually I'll need to install the CLI. I don't think I even have the AWS CLI. And then I'll also need some credentials. I think I usually use version 1. Guessing it doesn't really matter though. At least I'd hope not. I will also need some credentials. Oh, while I set this up, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'll be right back. Alright, so we should be back on now. At least I hope so. Looks like it. I just created a user called Thomas Step CLI, and I ran in the console. There's a command you run AWS configure, and that will walk you through the steps of configuring your credentials. After you create the user, it'll pop up credentials for your user, and those are what you input into the CLI. So next, I'm going to run through all these. Yeah, this is an important piece. Is you need the URL, I guess, of the repository. So this is mine. in the same way that this is theirs. So I would do a Docker tag, and I named it hello world, so I'll do a Docker tag hello world to that guy. Interesting. Well, that's what it's called now. And then you just have to push it. That doesn't look right because I'm pretty sure you need to authenticate. It's only if it's private. Did it just say it was private? Yeah, it is private. So, and that's fine. It's more or less prepared for that to happen. There we go. That's better. So this is the weird stuff that you have to do. This is what I was talking about. So it's not too crazy difficult. It just helps to have, or to know what you're looking for. So have the account ID. Username and region. One more. I think that's all I need. We'll find out soon. Okay, so that logged me in, and I think that's it. I think, oh yeah, because that's for PowerShell. It gets a password from ECR, and then it uses that password. It pipes it into the next command. So it's looking for password standard in, and it does a Docker login into your account. It's a nice tool. I'll go ahead and add this to the template. I will be making all of this public. I'll be pushing it to GitHub. And that link will be in there so it can be referenced in the future. And next, I need to push. In order to push, I just do a Docker push on the image that I just tagged. So on this guy, I need to Docker push, and that should push a latest. So it's going through all the pushes, different layers, and then once it's updated, we should in here be able to see the image. While we're waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up, I think it's called ECS services. So the way that Fargate works, Fargate itself is not a service. ECS is the service, and then you launch, I remember this being confusing when I first started out, you launch a Docker image on top of a, I guess it's called a Fargate instance. I don't really know what it would be called. Really all Fargate is an EC2 instance that's maintained by AWS, and it has Docker on it already installed, and once you give it an image name, it just knows how to run it, given the parameters that you put in through CloudFormation. So that's all it really is. It's just its own individual computer that spins up and runs a Docker image, and that's all it does. It's just already pre-configured. You can also launch through ECS using EC2. It's just another option. Fargate's easier. Fargate is touted as serverless containers just because you don't have to manage the server. That's all serverless really is. There's still a server behind it. So that's why when I Googled, I looked for the ECS service. You have an ECS service that is tied into your cluster, and then you will have a task definition, which is tied into your service. And once it's tied into the service, then you tell it how many you want up and alive at any given point in time, and it'll do that for you. While we're going through this, there will also be things like a load balancer. We'll add that in as we go, and stuff like that. The load balancer, the things that are used across potentially multiple containers that you would be running in your ECS cluster, I will put those in the ECS cluster template just because I believe those are more like baseline resources, and I believe that's where they should go. It's just a personal preference though. So looks like that's pushed. Let's go and check on him. And we have our image. So cool. We're pushed to ECR. Next, let's start building out Fargate for ourselves. So this is going to be our service. I'll just call it hello world service. And I'll also be adding in parameters on here. Some of these things we don't need. Some of these things we will be importing. So this will be our first import. So the reason behind this is going to be a parameter I'm going to use defaults in this just so it's easier whenever I'm building the stack, so I don't have to input these on my own, but I quite possibly will take those defaults out when I push. We'll see. So for the cluster name, I'm importing it, and the imports name is called the name of the ECS cluster stack dash ECS cluster, and that's pulled from here. So that's all I'm doing with that. And let me make sure that that's actually the return value. I might have to do a get at. So if I ref it, it returns the resource name. So I'm good with that. I don't need the ARN or anything. Deployment configuration. Deployment configuration and deployment controller. Deployment controller, I believe. So this is an interesting thing. I've used code deploy before. I'll go ahead and just use that again. I don't think there's any harm in doing that. I don't know if I need a deployment configuration, but what this is, ECS is, it just depends on how you want your new image to get rolled out. So if you do ECS, it just slowly and gradually changes all of the containers in an ECS cluster to update with the new version. It's pretty easy to get this working with code pipeline. If you use code deploy, unfortunately, as of the time of, well, I can't actually make that claim. It's December 16, 2020. As far as I know, you cannot create a blue-green deployment configuration with code deploy for ECS through CloudFormation. It's a known bug, and they're working on it, at least the last time I heard. Who knows when you're going to watch this video, it might have changed by then. Code deploy might not even be a thing by then. But these are just the different types. Maybe I'll make it ECS to start off, just because I know I can do that through code pipeline pretty easily. And then deployment configuration, is this required? I don't think this is required. It's not. No. Okay. So this is probably more useful for the rolling updates. And this is just saying when you're deploying, you could say that you want 200% of something, and it spins up two of them. It's. I'll just leave it for now. You can get pretty fancy with it though. Desired count. So this is where we tell it how many of the containers we want up and running. So number of instantiations, specified task definition. The task definition, you can think of this, if you know Kubernetes, I think this is the correct one-to-one mapping. I believe a task definition is called a pod in Kubernetes. And then a cluster is a cluster, a service, I don't know what a service is called in Kubernetes. I'm kind of learning Kubernetes, but I haven't had any hands-on experience with it yet. So desired count, I'll go and get rid of that. That'll be a 1. Enable ECS manage tags. Don't care about that. Health check grace period in seconds. This is just whenever it first starts up, it'll tell the load balancer will start making health checks. I believe what this is. Let's check. Yeah, so it'll start doing health checks towards the load balancer, and it'll, I guess, ignore it, which is a pretty cool feature. So if it takes your image, let's say it takes it a minute to start up, and your health checks from your load balancer don't have that much tolerance in them, you can add a grace period in. So that's pretty cool, I think. Actually, I'll go ahead and do that. So here, this is where we get the Fargate EC2 stuff, the launch type. So I guess you can read more about it if you'd like. This is just how you launch your image. That's it. You launch it on an EC2 instance, you have access to the underlying server, or you can launch it on Fargate, and you don't have to deal with the server. It's a serverless containerized application. So I like all things serverless. So I will stick with Fargate. I have a load balancer, list of load balancers to associate with. This is where we're going to have to spin off. And it will probably look something like that. I think that's fine. I think I can do that. Yeah. Is this a list of load balancer? Oh, that's not correct then. So there are a couple things I need to do. I need load balancer name. I'm going to call this the ALB name because I'll probably need the ARN at some point too. I need a target group ARN. That I will create in this template. Container name to associate and container port. So I already know some of this information. Container name, I'll just call it hello world. Container port, I know it's 8080. Load balancer name, I will get that eventually. And target group, target group ARN. I will make a to-do for that. That'll also be under the same confirmation section as creating the load balancer, so I'll just do it then. Let's go back. The network configuration. This is, yeah. So I'm not going to be using a VPC. Disabled. I don't think this is a required field. It depends on the way that the task is networked. Okay, so in the task definition, which we'll see, there is network mode, and it can be AWS VPC bridge host none. So once we get there, we'll have to read what's what, but I don't think I'll be using a VPC just because I don't have a VPC. Default Docker mode is bridge. If you're using Fargate, VPC is required. I might not be able to do this then because I might need a VPC. Okay, well, there you have it. Might need to make a VPC for this. So since I know that now, I know that I will need to do this. And this looks like this. Sign public IP. I'm going to go ahead and say, I think that was disabled by default. Security groups and subnets. Subnets would probably come from a VPC template, and security groups would probably be coming from the ECS cluster. As you can see, there's a decent amount of work to do just to get one of these spun up. Placement constraints. Don't know what those are. Platform version. Might as well use latest. Propagate tags. Doesn't matter to me. Role. Cost load balancer. We'll probably need this. Scheduling strategy. I didn't know you could specify the ARN. That's interesting. Service name. It's not required. Registries. This is for Cloud Map. If you want it to automatically create a DNS entry for you, you can use service discovery. Tags. Task definition. Task definition does matter. Full hard of the task definition. So it looks like I don't need those. I don't need those. I will need a task definition. The role. What kind of role do I need? Well, there you have it. Okay, I guess I'll just run that command. Create service linked role for ECS. Oh, well, I guess I already have it. Where's IAM? Alright. Looks like I have it. Okay. Maybe that happened whenever I created the ECS cluster. I will be using AWS VPC network mode. Okay, so I guess I don't need role. I'll come back to it if I end up needing it. Then task definition, this will be defined in here. But I am not going to do that just yet. I'm going to work on some of these to-dos, like the load balancers, and apparently the VPCs. I bet I can get a VPC template pretty easily. I bet there's an example of one in here. There you go, my VPC. So I'm going to go ahead and hope that this does work. I'll go ahead and make a make a basic VPC template and hope that that works. VPC, take a CIDR block, it's a private CIDR block, enable DNS support, enable host names. So I'm going to make these true. The reason I'm going to make these true is because I know there's something in AWS. Oh, that's why they were given quotes. There's something in AWS called Route 53 private hosted zones, and there was something in the service definition that I hinted at, the service registry for service discovery. This uses Cloud Map, and Cloud Map maps DNS names to a Route 53 private hosted zone. And in order for that to work, you need both DNS support and DNS host names to be true on your VPC. That's just how it works. So I'll go ahead and leave those on by default, just so I know that they're there. I'm going to go ahead and guess that I will need some subnets. Instance tenancy. What is that? Oh. I don't know if I want that. I think dedicated is I don't know if I want dedicated tenancy. I think that's expensive. Okay. Now that I have a VPC, let's see if I'm probably going to need subnets and maybe a route table. This might start taking a while. I hope not, but it might. VPC ID, I'm guessing on a VPC, the return value is the ARN. Here's the ID. Oh, yeah, okay. Ref basic VPC, got that one. Don't want that. Availability zone. Okay, well that could be, so availability zones are good. Within a region there are multiple availability zones and they're geographically separated, so you can build in some resiliency for your application, some disaster recovery, even just within the region by using different availability zones. So that's that's a good thing. Update this property. I don't necessarily understand this. I guess you can, I think this happens randomly anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that I don't need to do that. Mac public IP on launch, I don't want that. I don't want IPv6. I just need to give it a CIDR block. I think that's all I need to do. Yep. 10.0.0.0 slash. I guess we use 24. It says slash 24. Is that 100? No, 256. Oh, shoot. Slash 24 is 256. So, my next subnet would be that one. So now I have two subnets. I have VPC. I'll just go ahead and make 4 of them. Subnets of VPC. I'm going to go ahead and export. I'm not going to lie, I don't know if this works or not. I haven't used this before. It's the VPC ID. And then I'll do the same for all the subnets. While I do this, I'll go ahead and pause the video and be right back. Alright, we're back. I got all the subnets ready. I want to say I might need a route table and just let it be a default. I don't know. I haven't ever, like I said before, I haven't ever made a VPC on my own. So this will be new to me. Haven't been any errors yet. So let's see. The ECS cluster. Did that use a VPC? No, it didn't. The VPC is only connected at the service level. All right. Let's go ahead and check that out. I'm curious. Oh, I have 2 VPCs. Oh, that's right. There's a default VPC in every. Yeah. Let's see. Mine doesn't really look any different, so that's good. All those are local. That's correct. All the subnets are associated. That's correct. It might be fine. I might just have to solve problems as they arise and hope that there are none. But now we have a VPC and we have subnets, so we can go back here and we can add subnets in. So same way I had ECS cluster stack, I will have a VPC stack. And I just named it VPC. So the subnets are going to be in the same format as these, except we'll have A and B. So there are subnets now. Security group. This one will be somewhat easy to configure right now. let's see, I might have to launch an EC2 and curl it from the EC2 instance. I'm just thinking through the VPC, since it's not open. The only way that I think I'm going to be able to get to it is by launching an EC2 instance in that account, in that VPC, and then connecting to the API that way. The health check might also do in terms of just seeing that it's up and working. So in the ECS cluster stack, that's where I'm going to create the security group. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to create a wide open security group. I don't recommend this at all. This is pretty bad practice, but like I said, for the purposes of this video and for time, it'll do. So ingress and egress, yeah, I'm just allowing everything to come in and go out. And it looks like I will also need to use the VPC name for this. This is the, oh, I'll have to change this on the other one too. Dash, I think it's just VPC ID. Yeah, okay. There's our security group. I need to change these to be from the VPC, and then I need to make an export for our default security group. Let's see, what did it need for that security group? What was I looking at that needed that? Ah, the VPC configuration. Default security group for the VPC will be used. I might just use that. What are the defaults? Anything can come in. Yeah, that's fine. For the purposes of this video, that's fine. Well, let's see. Let's see if it's too difficult for me to spin this up. If it gives me any trouble, then I might not. Ah. Need to re-upload. Check that change set. Make sure we're good. Cool. There we go. So there's my security group. I have more control over it now if I need to. Is that not built yet or something? Ah, yeah, there it goes. The inbound rules weren't up when I first clicked on it. Okay, and now the outputs are there. So I'll just use this now. Just for show. Security groups, I'm assuming it means it wants the security group. The IDs, okay. back to that, make sure that's what happens when I ref it. Yep, so the ref would be correct, and it's called default security group. So at least you can see how I'm trying to import and export things. Next, load balancer, and then the target group I will make in this template. So I already know that I'm going to do it in here. Don't know why I'm typing that. Just copy and paste it. And then I know that I'm going to do an ALB. It's an application load balancer. There are different types of load balancers. ALBs, there are NLBs, network load balancers, and soon we will see what else there are. Click on the wrong thing. Oh, there we go. There's load balancer. I thought there was a type. Application, gateway, and network. That was the other one, was gateway. Default application. They do have differences, so it is worth it to keep track of that. So there's my load balancer, IP address type. I haven't done this before. I haven't made an ALB before, so they've always been there whenever I needed to use them. Dual stack or IPv4. I'll be using IPv4. Load balancer attributes. Okay, name, not required. Scheme, internal or internet facing. Sure, let's make it internet facing. I'll just have it up for a. It won't be up for very long, so security groups. Sure. Just let everyone join it. Subnet mappings. You must specify subnets in at least 2 availability zones. Let's make sure that those did create in 2 different availability zones. Where are my subnets? There we go. So all my 10 dots. That's what I'm looking for. Are the 10 dots. Availability zone 1A, 1A, 1A. Oh. Sounds like I need to add some new availability zones. A, B, C, D, E, and F. So if that random site was to, I believe, availability zone US East 1A, B, C, D. Probably gonna have to recreate those, which is fine with me, but side block must change. Let's go ahead and delete this then. So I guess it can't overwrite those cider blocks. So instead, what I'm going to do is just delete the stack because it didn't take very long to spin up anyway. And then I'll be able to leave those ciders the way they are and just change the availability zones. I don't imagine that'll take too long. Alright, I'm gonna leave it. This is not what I expected to happen this quickly, but what it was doing, that since the ECR repo had something in it, it wasn't allowed to delete. That was the image that I had pushed, this guy, but it doesn't really matter if I have that repo defined in this template. I'll leave it, but it'll just spin up a new one that I won't use. But yeah, I didn't want to delete it because I didn't want to have to push the Docker image again. It's just me being lazy. But so once this deletes, I'll spin the VPC back up. This is what I love about AWS and about CloudFormation. It's so quick and easy to make all of these things happen. You know, what I just did, if it was a custom thing in a company's data center, that might have taken me a long time to do. Just all the manual processes that I would have had to go through. But with this, it's easy. It's so wild. So that'll go through and create. Let's see, what else do I need for this? After security group, I need subnet mappings. Where was I? ELB, subnet mappings. Okay. ELBs, or ALBs. So I need two subnet mappings. At least two availability zones. Okay. I just give it subnet ID. Okay. Where's that import? There it is. So we're in A and B. Let's see if that VPC is done. Cool. Just gotta finish this out. And then subnets. What? I'm very confused by this. I don't know which one I'm supposed to do. Subnet mappings or subnets? Either subnets or subnet mappings. Because they're the same thing, that's why. I'll just do subnets. Okay. Tags, don't care about that. And then type is probably application. Yep. There's my ALB. And then let's see the different. I can get DNS name, full name, canonical hosted zone ID, ARN. Let's see what the service needs. Load balancer. need the name. Oh, should be permitted. Probably because it's used by the target group. So while I'm over here, let's see what the target group needs, because that will determine what I export. Target type. I think this needs a listener, doesn't it? This creates a target group, and then there's a listener. This is stuff and there's the load balancer, and then the actions, which you can forward to a target group. Yeah, that's right. And this needs the ARN, so I will just ARN export. It is a little complicated. So all that stuff, you'll see it all in just a second. But in order for a load balancer to work, you need both the load balancer, and then a listener, which tells the load balancer where to listen from, and then the listener provides an action to do. And one thing you can do with an action is you can forward it to a target group, and then that target group is set up to forward to an ECS service. It's a little convoluted, but that's what's happening. Cool. Let's try to upload this. That's not what I wanted. See if it works. It could break now just because I've introduced the load balancer stuff, and I don't know if that's going to work or not. But we will find out soon. Yeah. Load balancer attributes must be a list of objects. Okay. Load balancer attributes. Looks like I might need this. Why is this necessary? Oh, that's why. I didn't even have a name for it. That's why it was throwing that error. That was my mistake. So going back through. Oops. Creating the stack again. This normally happens. Creating new resources. You just kind of have to like touch and go. But that is also why I'm trying to put together the CloudFormation reference repository in GitHub. It's public. That's what all these templates are going to go to in the end. This AWS CloudFormation reference. Go to it through my GitHub page. It's just right there, out and open for anyone to use. That's the reason ultimately why I'm trying to get this all set up. There's no internet gateway. Okay, so my VPC would need to have an internet gateway. The VPC stuff's going to start killing me. I wonder if I could just make it internal. Oh, I didn't spell that right. Was it schema? Yeah, there we go. With access to the VPC for the load balancer. Okay, so I'll do this, and then yeah, I'll just show all I want to. I'll do this for today. I'll only get it up and working, and then I'll come back with more VPC with an actual configure VPC and get it all working. Make it all nice and pretty. Make it so it's publicly accessible. Because yeah, right now I just want to get the container up, show the container being up, and then show it the Elastic Load Balancer. There will be health checks that I'll have to run through, and those health checks they'll just forward to the root path, and that'll show us the 200, and we'll be able to see in that log. So in here, the received request, we'll be able to see from there that it is actually working and it is actually receiving requests, even if we can't reach it from the public internet because it's stuck inside of a VPC. Load balancers do take a while to create, so I think this is actually a good sign that the load balancer is starting to work. So now that I know that that's, well, hopefully going to work, load balancer name, it said I didn't need this, so we go back to that. Load balancer name, only when using a classic load balancer. If you're using ALB or NLB, the name should be omitted. So I'll get rid of that. And the next thing would be a target group. Like I said before, for target groups, and well, for load balancing, really, it gets a little convoluted. You actually need a listener, and then you also need a target group. So I'm going to go ahead and create the listener first. Let's see, LP, TLS. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing SSL. Default actions, load balancer ARS. So that's the one I need. That's coming from here. So load balancer ARN. That is from this guy, ALB ARN. So there we go. Let's check on this stack. ALB is still spinning up. Like I said, it takes a while, so that's fine. Port, I'll make it 8080. I'll just let it go straight through. Protocol, HTTP. SSL policy, I'm not going to have an SSL policy. Default actions, I will have to do these guys. I won't have to do. So the action. Let's go to the actions. For an action, boy, that's a lot, isn't it? Actions are telling the load balancer what to do with the traffic that it receives, so you can, based on the host name that is given to you by the client, or the path, or the port, or whatever, you can redirect traffic to different places. That's pretty much all it is. But a lot of this stuff I'm not going to be using. Authenticate Cognito, I'm not going to be using. You can use the Amazon Cognito to authenticate. OpenID, I'm not using fixed response config. So that is something you can do if someone hits your load balancer. Maybe even add like a certain path or something like that. You can just give it a 500 or whatever you'd like to do. Forward config. One or more. Distributes request, one or more target groups. This is probably what I want. I will probably need, I'm guessing I don't need any of those. I will probably need forward config, order. We'll make it 1. It's the first rule. It's the only rule. Redirect config. Redirection action. We're not going to redirect. Type. Authenticate, fixed response, forward. Yep, specify only when type is forward. Okay, I can do that. And you'd forward it to a target group. So I will also need a hello world target group. I'll make that in just a sec. Let's check on that ALB, and it is done. So that's good news. Target group, we'll get there in just a second. Let's look at the forward config. So forward config, we're sending it to target groups. Information about how it will be distributed. Target group stickiness config. Yeah, I think it's just this. I think this is all I'll probably need. Forward config to target groups, and we'll have that target group, and then you can weight it so you can. This is how you would actually load balance, is through here. That's actions, and then where are my conditions? Oh, it's a listener rule. And I'm just on a listener, so I guess you can set that up differently depending on how you want. But since I'm just using the listener and I'm not setting up listener rules and then connecting those to the listener, this is what we got. Specify only when type is forward. You want to route to, and you want to route to a single target group. Route to one or more. Use forward config. So I'm not going to load balance. I'm only going to work on a single one. So I don't even need the, I don't even need the forward config. Yep, I just need the one because I'm forwarding only to this target group. So that's easy. Now let's go to the target group. It's task definition. Target group. So all this stuff, a lot of it's just health check stuff, which is, I suggest doing it. I don't think you have to, but yeah, you probably should. Target type is instance, and I think it would be instance instead of a lambda. Disabled by default, yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. I guess you can set up like a canary with a load balancer for a lambda. The health check interval. So this is what we were talking about way back here. Let's see. Health check grace period for 5 seconds. So you can make this, let's say you make it 60 seconds, and then the health check interval is 5 seconds. That's how you would know, because if it took your container 60 seconds to spin up, or let's say it took it 45 seconds to spin up, and your health check interval is every 5 seconds, it would default to slash. I'm going to delete that. It would time out. It would never succeed a health check. So yeah. Protocol HTTP still. Health check timeout. What's the default? 6 seconds for HTTP. That's fine with me. What's the interval default? 30 seconds? Yeah, sure. That's fine. We don't need that. I'll just use 30 seconds. I'll just use those defaults. Health check timeout seconds. Using default. Threshold count. Default is 5. So after 5 successful health checks, that means we have a healthy instance. Matcher. Okay. HTTP code. Default is 200. So is that a required? No, it's not required because I'm looking for a 200 anyway. Name of the target group. I don't want to give it a name. Port. 8080. And this is for the target group, not for the health check. So you can have a health check go to 8081, and then in that, in your task definition, you can have two containers, one that's exposed on 8081, one that's exposed on 8080, and they each do different things. Maybe the one on port 8081 has a process to go reach out to the container that's running on port 8080, and it checks to make sure it's actually healthy before it returns. So that's why there are options to make these two different. Protocol, HTTP. I don't know what Geneve is. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Geneve? Oh, interesting. Tags, none. Target group attributes. So not required, then none. Targets. Probably need that. Target type, instance. Register by IP. Leave all that the same. VPC ID, I know that one. Unhealthy, is there a default? 2. Take that. Target type. Register targets by instance ID. This is the default value. I might go with IP later. But we'll see. Target description. Availability zone. ID. I think that's all done for us by just outside BBC. I think this is done for us by I think that ECS does all of that for us. I'm pretty sure. We just set it up and it pretty much does nothing. It's not registered to anything. And then oops. And then does it give the arm? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I don't think you'd know this unless you did. But I think what happens, we give ECS the IAM permissions to do this, but the target group isn't assigned to target anything yet, and then ECS will do that for us. Once it gets all spun up, it'll handle that for us. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. But might have to go back to it. Might have to work on that a little bit. Let's get to the task definition. Container definition. See, this is where we put in the image. Let's see what of this is required and what isn't. What's the default? I'll just use minimum on all these. Is that minimum? Yeah, memory. Just because I don't want to get dinged for all the charges. Execution role. This is another thing that we'll have to do in here. And I'll just add a ton of things to it. Not the right way to do it, but family, I don't care about that. Inference accelerators, probably don't care about that. Elastic inference accelerators, nope, not using them. IPC, don't believe I need that. Memory, network mode. This is apparently, since I have to do it with Fargate, it's AWS VPC. PID mode, process namespace, don't need that. Placement constraints. It's not valid with Fargate. Perfect. I won't worry about it. Proxy configuration. This is for an app mesh proxy. I very well might come back and try to do a video with app mesh. I've been wanting to use that and get something spun up and test it out. App mesh is a service mesh. It's AWS's service mesh, like Istio, or I think it's Linkerd. I think that's another service mesh implementation, and it uses Envoy as the proxy. So that's what all that's for. Launch type that task requires Fargate, because I'm using Fargate. Tags, task. You can use this as the same as the execution role. And then volumes, don't need volumes. So I just need to make, and I need to do container definition. But in the meantime, let's do the IAM role. I need an IAM role. Here we go. And I'm going to build this out in here because this is something that would be used by other Fargate services as well. I always forget how to start these off. There we go. Like that. Assume policy document, allow. Service needs to be ECS and EC2, I believe. And then ECS tasks. ECS. Yeah, this will help us. Maybe not. Yeah, there we go. You need ECS tasks. The only reason I have ECS, EC2, and ECS tasks, EC2 Fargate is an EC2 instance, so you need it on that. What is it? ECS container instance IAM role. Oh, this might help. Ah, yes. This looks very familiar. I do need these. I guess normally these would be situated out. You'd have, so there were two roles. If you remember, there's execution role and task role. So you'd have a task role and then an execution role. I'm just being lazy and putting them all into one. So that's all. Let's see. You can do policies or you can do managed policy ARNs. And I like managed policy ARNs just because I don't have to, well, that allows everything, but so that wasn't a good policy. But managed policy ARNs, it's just a list of ARNs that you can get from here. So you go to the IAM console, you go to policies, and then you can search stuff like ECS. So ECS task execution role policy. Go pull that ARN out. You see that? Those 4 ECRs and the 2 logs. There you go. That's where it came from. So this is, yeah, I don't think it's best practice per se to use managed policy ARNs because they could be, technically they could give more permissions than need be, but it's a lot quicker. And AWS manages it, so you do get a little bit of benefit just with that. The other one is this EC2 container service for EC2 role. I thought there was one for Fargate. No, I guess that's it. Yeah, if I remember right, there are 2 roles that you need. So we'll do the task execution and then the service role. Oh wait, this is the... Yeah, see, so the load balancing, register targets, deregister targets. This is why in our target group we didn't put any targets. That was by design, because this will go in and it will register the targets or deregister them if we remove them. It'll also deal with the network interfaces, all that good stuff. Service discovery, this is done through Cloud Map. Route 53, you can create the record sets. So there's some cool stuff you can do with ECS and Fargate, and I'm super happy that I was introduced to it. I believe that's it. And then what's the return value? Logical ID, and I think I need the ARN for these. Yes, I need the ARN. So here, I'm going to do default role export, and then oops, that's wrong. Here we go. Default role. Then in here, we'll go ahead and import. Perfect. Of course, that's all assuming that this is properly formatted CloudFormation template. So let's try that out. ECS cluster, links to the VPC. I am creating IAM roles. This is another good thing for conglomerating IAM roles. It's just better practice to have them all together. Okay. Can't attach the service role policy to a customer role. So that was this. Yeah. So what was the container instance IAM role? Maybe that's all I needed. Yeah, I might not need any of these. Container service. Admin access to ECS resources. That sounds all encompassing, so I'll go ahead and use that. Again, probably not best practice. Actually, I know it's not best practice, but it'll get the job done. Oh, whoops. I was gotta click that checkbox. There we go, creating the role. And then next is my container definition. That is after or if this works. I don't want to juggle too many balls at once, but cool. The task definition has a container definition, and this is more like a Docker file or a Docker Compose file. So if you are familiar with those, this is going to be where all of that information lives. So the container definition, wow, it's a lot, isn't it? Okay. Command, you can override the command that starts the Docker container. CPU, I don't really mess with that. Depends on, you can make one container depend on another. I don't think it's recommended, but let's say you had a database, you would want it to be healthy before an application that depended on it started up. That's one way you can do it. Disable networking. I guess you can do that. I wouldn't. I'm not going to be doing it. DNS search domains. Um, DNS servers. Oh, interesting that you can do that. Docker labels. Security options. Entry point. Like I said, this is where you would I guess Docker run. That's where you would override all the Docker run or Docker compose files. Environment. This is a useful one. This is where you put your environment variables, or you can give it a file that lives in an S3 bucket. Essential. I feel like most people just put true, even if it's not, but this is my only container, so it does have to be up. Fire lens, health checks. The health check, there is also a health check for the load balancer. Host name, image. This is an important one. So the image is going to come from here. It's the URI. Full or, yeah, so there you go. That's my URI. To make this more generic, well, there are tons of ways you can make this template more generic, but you can specify, actually I'll go ahead and do that. Specify this as a parameter. Again, for my purposes, I'll make it easy on myself and just put it in there. Interactive. Interesting. Don't need that. Links. Links to other containers. Linux parameters. Log configuration. This one is actually useful. I will show how to do that real quick. Memory reservation, mount points, name. Do you need it? I think you need a name. Yeah, okay, only if you're linking them do you need a name. Otherwise you don't need a name. Port mappings. Do need that. I think it's just key value. Oh, okay, there you go. $8080, $8080, TCP. Those are my port mappings. That's the same as when in here, when I did, well, it's not up anymore, but docker run -p 8080:8080. That's the same thing. Port mappings, privilege, sudo terminal, read-only root file system, repository credentials. This is useful if you're using like a private Docker Hub repository for your image. That's where you're pulling from. You can add to a secret. You can create a secret in Secrets Manager. Let's see what it actually says. Credentials parameter. Yeah, it's the art of the secret. And you put a key value pairs in, key username, key password, and then put in the corresponding credentials, and then you can pull from a private repository using those, and still keep them secure. Resource requirements, only supported resources GPU. Interesting. Secrets, so you can pass secrets to the container in the same way you would environment variables, except they don't show up anywhere. This is I've used this in the past. This is a really cool feature. I like it. Start timeout, stop timeout, system controls, ulimits, users. You can specify a certain user that you want it to run with, or you can just let it do the normal. Pretty much anything you would do in a Docker run or a Docker compose. Like I said, volumes, working directory. That might be it. That might be it for us. Might just be a pretty easy one. So the log configuration. This one's actually, it's very useful. And this is what we'll have to do to confirm that it's working. So log driver is AWS CloudWatch, AWS logs. But you can, yeah, obviously there are tons of different log drivers you can use. Options. What are options? Options to send to the log driver for Docker. Okay. Secret options. Nope. Oh, you know what? Those, yeah, I remember what those options are. You can specify, is there anything in? Ah, there it is, using AWS log driver. There are certain things that you have to do, certain things you have to pass in. The log group, and then you can pass in these options. So a region, you want to create a group, endpoint, AWS logs dash group. You have to specify a log group, so it'll create a log group. So we can do something like, and then stream prefix. I'll do that. Just a sec. Stream prefix. Prefix name, container name, ECS task. So, and that's, I think it does that. If you specify a this is required for Fargate. We'll just put in hello world container. See what pops out. There you go. I guess that's it. Logs region. Well, that was easy. I'll just do it in the region that I'm deploying in, but I guess you can send it to a different region if you have like a centralized, a single region where you have a centralized dashboard. That'd be a place to do it. For the log group, this is a required thing. We create a log group, and you can do that through CloudFormation. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it through CloudFormation. So under CloudWatch, create a log group. That's it. That's all you got to do. It's pretty easy. Group retention 7, and then in here we'll just ref it, and that's how we'll get our logs. So that's a almost required feature, I'd say. Yeah, it's really cool, and that might be it. I don't see any more to-dos in here, so yeah, let's go ahead and try to spin it up and see what happens. So we're going to build it off of the, oh, well, there we go. We already got a problem. 29. Oh, I might have to do that for all of them. Yeah, there's something with the way that, yeah, I have to do it with all of them. Just the way that the functions work, and it's just not defined in YAML. I think I have to do it. Well, do I have to do it for all of them? I think I do. Yeah. That's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Go try that again. Hey, there we go. Okay, cluster's there, image is there, VPC stack is there. See what happens. See if it wants to work for. Oh, I updated it? Why did I update it? That's not right. That'll surely fail. Yeah. Whoops. I needed to create a new stack. I don't know why I didn't recognize that before, but either way, it's fine. It looks red, but it's fine. So good so far. There we go. Great fail. Task definition not found. Oh, did I not put one in? Task definition is string. Yeah, that's not right. Task definition is that. I'm going to guess. Let's make sure. But I'm going to guess that task definition returns its logical ID. Okay. And what does a service need? Task definition, it needs or full ARN. Okay. So not currently supported. Oh, it returns the ARN. What? Okay, whatever. That should fix it. Delete this. I don't think it actually created anything, so. What had it created? It created the log group and the target group. Wow. I guess that target group takes a while to delete. No, it's the task definition. Either way. So I don't, while we're waiting, I don't have this installed on my computer, but there's a nifty tool called CFN lint that I would suggest installing. You can avoid some of these problems. It just lints CloudFormation templates. There's also a plugin for VS Code, and I thought I had it, but I guess I don't on this computer. So it's helpful though. I recommend CFN lint. Invalid request. Let's go ahead and start deleting that for the listener. Okay. Let's go check on what the listener wants. Conditional. Not using HTTPS. Default actions, it's required. Load balancer ARN, it's required. Port, not required. Protocol. VPC ID. Oh, what? Oh, that's a target. It's this one. Default action, okay. No conditional default actions, they're there. Load balancer ARN, it's there. Port is there. Protocol is there. Probably something in my action then. HTTPS, fixed response config. Custom HTTP response. Maybe I need that. Forward config. Oh, it's only when type is fixed response, so I don't need that. Forward config. Decided we don't need that. Order, it's there. Redirect config, it's not a redirect, it's a forward special. Only when type is forward and you want to route to a single target group. Use forward config instead. And it routes there. See if we can find an example. I'm pretty sure they have examples all over the place for this. That might help. Oh my. This is a lot. That's the one. Is it just not like that, maybe? Application load balancer, port, certificates, I'm not doing certificates, default action, forward to a target group. Depends on, maybe I need to give it a depends on. I don't know. It did seem kind of weird. Yeah, maybe for some reason the action doesn't, I don't know. That was very weird though. Seeing an error like that. We can look at CloudTrail and see if CloudTrail has any information, but sometimes it's hard to figure it out from CloudTrail. Let's go ahead and try again. Hopefully it was that dependency. That's why. Not exporting the right thing. Well, that'll do it. Listener. No, load balancer, and then I need to return the ARN. It does that anyway. Alright, yep. So I was checking to make sure that my resources looked correct and make sure that it was in fact the ALB that I was exporting, and it's not. I was exporting the security group. I never changed that. So that was my fault. I just have to go in and update the reference that is to the ALB when it exports. So that was my own stupid mistake. Outputs. Oh, whoops. I guess I have to wait until this is done. Alright, I'll go ahead and pause the video and I'll be back whenever that's done. Alright, the Fargate stack decided it was good and deleted. So I'm going to update the ECS cluster stack. It'll make it nice and green too. It's always nice. There we go. That looks a lot better. Now let's create our stack. Hopefully we won't get stuck at the load balancer portion. Looking better. Oh. Container.name should not be null or empty. Alright, I guess it is required. Did we not read that it wasn't? Not required. Oh well. Pretty easy fix. Uh-oh. There we go. Fortunately, we have to wait for this to, I'll delete. Well, we might not. This should all be generic enough that I can create multiple stacks. It'll just, the stack name will just look weird, but that's all. Well, this one's deleting. We can try to spin this one up, see if we get any further, and then go back to the drawing board if not. Nope. Create service. Provided target group. Target type instance. Ah. Okay. Well, the other target type, I believe, was IP. Is that correct? Was it in? Just a target group? Oh, that's right. I deleted it because I thought I didn't need it. But it defaults to IP. Or it must default to instant? Yeah, it defaults to instant. Okay. So, in the target group, what is it called? Target type. Target. Target type. All right. This is just kind of how it goes with CloudFormation sometimes. Just gotta keep working at it till you get all the configuration settings correct. That's the hardest part of it, really, in my opinion. Just making sure you get all the configuration correct. It helps to know what you're doing in advance, but you know, it doesn't always work out that way. Oh. They changed the deployment controller. Oh, whoops. What does it default to? Let's default to ECS. Or it's just not required. Still creating though. So this, I think at this point, it will tell itself that it's created once it knows, once all the health checks pass. So we can go in here, so this is the service, and the service will create a task, and inside of that task we have our container, and inside of our container we can view the logs for our container. So this is where we'll see, and it's pending right now, it hasn't completely spun up, but this is where we'll see the health checks coming from, I need EC2, the health checks coming from the load balancer. So you can also go in here and look at the load balancer. There's our load balancer. We have listeners. Doesn't like that. Oh, that's fine. Then we have our rule, and our rule for this target group. It's our default rule. And, oh, it stopped. It's still there, isn't it? Well, one of those isn't mine. Interesting that it can't pull it. I've never had that error before, that it timed out. It'll try to spin up another one though. So here it's trying to spin up another one. Let's view those logs. What am I trying to pull? 6M. GYCL 8YIO 7B latest. Looks right to me. I don't know where that one came from though. Time out again. All right, I'll pause this until it comes up because it'll be a little bit of waiting until now. So I got that error again. This is HTTPS. I googled this, and one problem might be that I don't have an internet gateway on my VPC. But if I'm using Amazon provided DNS in my VPC, which I do, I need to make sure the security group has outbound access to 443. I'm hoping I don't have to set up an internet gateway. I'm hoping that so what I went and did, and I added 443. I'm hoping that's all I have to do, because I'd really rather not set up an internet gateway right now. But you know, that might be the route that I have to take. So I'll wait for this to come to a conclusion and go from there. I'll pause in the meantime. So I got the same error, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and try for a NAT gateway. You can do an internet gateway or a NAT gateway. A NAT gateway allows my resources to go out, but nothing to come in. An internet gateway allows two-way communication. So I'm going to go ahead and do NAT gateway. And luckily I went on the CloudFormation site, and it's already right there ready for us, which is quite nice. Go over to the VPC template here and add this in. I'll just leave it the way it is. I have no problem with that. I like this version of get at better. We're gonna ref subnet. Is it by subnet? The public subnet in which to create the NAT gateway. I don't have a public subnet. Do I need a public subnet? Well, let's try that. See what happens. Route table. Everything's already all named for me already. Ref the net. I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to find out soon. I always like to try to create AWS resources first in CloudFormation. I think if you go CloudFormation first, it's just a little I think it's a little bit nicer to do. Then you already know it's in a template. You don't have to go back and try to figure out what configuration goes where in the CloudFormation template versus in the... Oh, there's already an internet gateway. Oh, it's attached to the default. Interesting. And the NAT gateways? Interesting. I wonder if an internet gateway is the way to go. Private IP. Network interface. Subnet. Then it'll give me an elastic IP, I guess. Okay, so I guess if anything, I know that by default it uses an internet gateway, so that'll be my next if the NAT gateway doesn't work, I'm going to use an internet gateway. How do you connect VPC gateway attachment? VPC, VPN gateway ID, internet gateway ID. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this, like I've said before, I'm not afraid to say it that I haven't done this before. Um, I don't imagine it'll be too entirely difficult, but uh, I haven't done it before. One thing I do know about ENIs is if you use them, they're free. If you don't use them, they cost money. So don't don't allocate ENIs and then not do anything with them. Has no internet gateway attached. So I guess, does that mean I need an internet gateway as well? Maybe that's what it means. Maybe I do need an internet gateway after all. Alright, I guess I need an internet gateway. So here goes that. Once that finishes, I'll... Did this delete as well? Okay, that's good. Let's try that update again with the internet gateway. Oops. I'll pause until it comes back up. Alright, so the VPC updated. There is an internet gateway now. This is the second one. So I guess, oh, is this starting to fail out? Is it not trying anymore? Uh-oh. Yeah, and you just needed to realize that it doesn't have anything up and try to restart it. I'll be back once that happens. So it took me a while in the background, but I eventually got the container to run, the Hello World container. Well, it just got its first, I misspelled received, but it just got its first health check from the load balancer. You can see it's running. I'll go over real quick a couple of things that I had to do to get this set up. First one was to enable a public IP. I'm sure there's a way to well, I know that there are ways that you don't have to assign a public IP to your Fargate task. Different networking architectures that you can set up. Um, but I reset up my VPC. So I changed some stuff around in this stack. In the route table that I created, and I'll show you some of this too. I still have to clean this template up, but um, as you can see, I added an internet gateway and an internet gateway attachment to connect that internet gateway to the VPC. Then I added a route in my route table for just a blank CIDR block for anything that hadn't already been matched in the route table to be routed to the internet gateway. And then I explicitly associated all of my subnets with that route table. And again, this will all be, I'll push all of this. So in the route table, this is what it looks like. You see all the subnets here. And then you see your destination to local, and then the blank canvas destination to this internet gateway. And that's all I had to do. There were a couple things online that I followed to try to get this working. This was one, and there were various other things. This is another one. You can start seeing the network diagrams. This is a way you could enable all of this with still with private IPs, but this is more or less what I ended up doing. Made one public subnet. I obviously still need some work figuring out and getting more comfortable with the networking for a VPC, but an internet gateway, more or less, from what I understand, simply allows a connection between your VPC and other AWS services or the internet. That's all it does. And you just need an entry in a route table and a subnet assigned or specifically associated with that route table in order to make it a public subnet. After I got that done, I also changed in the template. I'll show you here this assign public IP in my services network configuration. And once I did that, it decided to turn on. And you can see all these received requests here in my ECS container. And then also real quick, go over and show the load balancer, because there will be one cool thing that the load balancer does. We looked at this before a little bit, but you can see the VPC and the subnets it's connected to. And then in the listener, there's a forwarding rule to this target group. That happened to me last time. But and in the target group, we'll see this IP address 10.0.0.4 and port 8080. There's your private IP that matches up with that, and port 8080. So there you go. That's how you do it. I wonder here if I could let's go to that load balancer. We'll see if we can hit it. Now that I made everything public, I wonder if I can curl it. That's your A record. So let's see. 5649. Oh. I don't actually know if this is going to work. That'd be through the load balancer. Could also try through here. Yeah, so that one worked. So that was directly from the public IP. So we just went straight to the container. But there should probably, I would imagine, there'd be a way to connect to this guy. but it doesn't seem like it wants to. Maybe it's because it's an internal record. Yeah, 'cause it's all internal. It just might not be exposed. That DNS record might not be exposed. You might have to be on the VPC in order to get to it. So yeah, my guess is you'd have to change that scheme around. But once you open it up, it opens up a lot of possibilities. So I will go ahead and upload this, but there's obviously I'll still be working on this mostly on the networking side, and I'll try to do the same thing that I did with this video, where I go through it and build it from the ground up. And hopefully you got something out of this. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My information's all over the internet. My website's thomasstep.dev. I write stuff about AWS and other programming related articles on there, and yeah, I'm sure you can find me online somewhere if you need to reach out. But my email's tstep916@gmail.com if that's the best way for you too. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. It's been good for me to at least go through it from the ground up and see everything. So hopefully you could get something out of this too. So thank you, and thanks for watching.